everyone. I'm Ritik.
And I'm Jia Srivastav.
We welcome you all to the very first session of Policy Playbook under the politics vertical of YPC SBSC chapter. We started this initiative with an aim to create an interactive space where students can engage in meaningful conversations and get practical guidance on internships and navigating the policy space. Today, we are delighted to welcome Pia Chopra, a political science undergraduate from Deshbandhu College, University of Delhi. Pia brings with her strong experience in public policy, research, and political analysis, having worked with institutions like the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Niti Aayog, and several members of parliament.
Her work spans rural governance, infrastructure policy, and international relations, with a keen focus on welfare systems and right based developments. She has also written on India's foreign policy, space law, and refugee rights, and actively engages in policy discussions through writing, debate, and academic forums. So today she joins us to speak on starting out in policy, what works, what doesn't, and what matters. So thank you so much, Pia, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's truly an honor because I really get to do this and I want to help a lot of people with my experience. So, giving me a platform, I'm very grateful to Piyush, to Ritik, and Jia. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so shall we start with the questions, Pia?
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. And how did you personally find your way into policy space? And if someone is sitting in first year right now, a little confused but interested, what would you tell them to do now?
Great. So, how I started in policy space, I think it's nothing different. I would say. I mean, I was preparing for civils, and I realized in the first month itself that civils is not for me. I cannot study for 8 to 9 hours at one end or like 12 hours in one stretch, and pursue an exam which has a 0.01% chance of selection. I never could do that, but I still wanted to contribute to bureaucracy, to governance, to policy making. And because I had research skills priorly from my prior research internships, I decided to find alternatives. So for the next 2 months, I researched extensively on careers in the field of political science and how many branches we can go into. And that's where I came across public policy. First internship I came across was from Manthan itself, and that's where I also met Piyush. So that internship actually spearheaded me forward in the public policy space. However, if anybody is in first year and I have to tell them that what you have to do in order to start in this space, I would just say three major skills matter. That's research, your communication skills, and your writing skills. These three are the things that are needed. And if you have already established your skills in these three areas, then I would say you're set for public policy, because public policy demands rigorous research. It demands great writing skills for policy briefs and memos, and communication, because you'll be communicating with clients who come from this space. In fact, even bureaucrats for that matter.
Okay, thank you so much, Pia. That was really insightful to us.
Okay, so the second question goes like that most of us feel stuck at the no experience stage, like mostly the first years. So you need experience to get experience. So how did you navigate that and what actually works in that breaking that loop?
Yeah, I would say, this is a very cliched but a very true thing to talk about. You need experience to get experience. I started out with a research internship. So I did a lot of, you could say, research papers. I wrote a research paper on space law, where I discussed about South Asian and Southeast Asian space programs and stuff. But other than that, I also actively look for internships. So what I did was, I decided to have certain publications, 2 or 3 articles maybe in my own college magazine, in my own society, then the rest in some journals if I could get op-ed essays and stuff. That was my experience, my research and writing experience, and that was enough for me to apply. In the first month itself, I applied to at least 40 internships. I would always say the key to getting your first public policy internship is always applying in bulk. Yes, you could tailor your CV. Yes, you could have a different sort of cover letter and resume. But I would always recommend, do not chase after quality. Quality over quantity or whatever is the common norm there. This does not work. I would say quality also matters, quantity also matters. I've always said it to everybody who's come up to me for asking about how to start up in public policy. You need to apply in bulk so that you can show them that yes, if not this, I have other options. And it's sort of like you could say motivating also that even if out of 40 internships, 35 reject me, at least I get 5 callbacks. Your chances are increased. So spend those late nights if you can applying in bulk. Tailor your resume, tailor your CV. And that's what I say. For getting the experience, just have writing and research, have certain publications, that's enough, and then start applying in bulk. And always ensure that your LinkedIn feed is tailored to giving you opportunities rather than mindless posts. That's one thing.
Okay, so the trick in the beginning is to like just stop waiting for permission and just start applying. Okay,
Blindly
so
apply wherever you can. Wherever you can, just blindly apply. Even if you're not eligible, just apply. What if you get selected? That's how I did it. That's
okay,
why I got selected. Right? So that's how you do it. Have the audacity.
okay, oh, really appreciate that answer. It was both like practical and thought provoking for us. That actually clarified a lot. So like yeah, thank you so much.
So, as you all know that MP internships are all over LinkedIn and honestly they look very glamorous. So, what was your experience like in reality and how should someone approach getting one without just cold emailing blindly?
They're glamorous if you want them to be glamorous. Okay. Other than that, I would say it's heck of a work. You cannot get into an MP office easily. It's crazy work. I myself got my first internship in fifth semester, which is my third year. First MP internship. That's what I want to say. Prior to that, I was just working with think tanks, individual think tanks, or two other government affiliated think tanks. I never see this is the difference. I never cold emailed to any MP. Here also, I did the same. I applied in bulk. I tailored my feed for 1 month, for at least 1 month. In my LinkedIn feed, I only liked opportunities. I sifted through the filters. I liked the posts that posted the opportunities. And that's how my feed got tailored. That instead of mindless posts, I would just get opportunities at the first moment they're posted. So within hours, I can apply. Because MP internships are highly competitive. For one internship, you get 1,500 applications, over 1,500. That's how competitive they are. I would not recommend cold emailing to, you know, blindlessly cold emailing to MPs. I would just say first try through LinkedIn. And those Google forms that you get. Certain MPs like Honorable MP Sujit Kumar sir from the Rajya Sabha and other MPs have their own websites. Check out those websites because they contain forms of internship. And I would not say, if you cold email to their offices, at times they also disqualify your applications because let us understand that this is the administrative part of the government. We're talking about the parliament. You cannot just email them and they can reply back to you in days, or even they would be like willing to reply, because they would not. They would simply disqualify you even if you've given an application. This does not work like it does in the private sector or in other think tanks like maybe ORF or maybe Niti Aayog where you do cold emailing. No, I would always say go and connect with the secretaries of the MPs on LinkedIn. So there are a lot of secretaries on LinkedIn. They work with the MPs in the parliament. Connect with them, chat with them, ask them if there is any opportunity. And I would always recommend first start with the area that you come from, your hometown, your hometown's MP, or even MLA for that matter. Who says you should directly go and work for the MP? Work for the central councillor, work for the MLA, then work for the MP. When you build credibility, only then can you work for the parliament. And credibility only comes from experience. So I always say that this is like a ladder. You first work with small research circles, then you work with smaller think tanks, then you climb the ladder and work with bigger think tanks like Niti Aayog and ORF, CSDS Loop Niti. And then you work with the MPs. And after working with the MPs, then that's where you go to the ministries, right? So it's like a ladder. It's 5 6 step ladder.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really insightful. So LinkedIn is the way to go through it. Thank you so much, Priya, for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the next question is like a lot of people here, including me, see Niti Aayog or working at a Niti Aayog or interning at the Niti Aayog as a dream. So, like, very honestly, what does it really take to get there? And what do they actually value in applicants?
Okay. So I'll be brutally honest. Two things. First, they will not see the value of the applicants. There are thousands of applications. Only internal connections work. And in internal connections, again, let me be brutally honest once again. Two things. If you have family connections, well and good enough. Go to Niti Aayog. Use those connections. If you have a bureaucrat who works with the think tank in the family, right? Second option. You cold email only to those consultants who actually reply back to you. This is something that I have shared in my podcast also for Niti Aayog with Building Bharat. You guys can check it out on my LinkedIn profile. It's pinned there and it has a lot of detail on how to get the internship, what sort of cold email design you need to have. I would say in a week, I emailed, if in a week there are 7 days, Saturday, Sunday I left because that's not working. 5 days I emailed per week 75 cold emails. Okay, and it was from different verticals. I do not care. Even if I wanted to go into governance vertical or social empowerment vertical as my interest, I did not care. I emailed to each and every vertical and each and every consultant that I could find on the Niti Aayog directory or the list that is available publicly. The reason I did this was because somewhere, somehow or the other, there would be one consultant at least or two consultant at least who would be willing to read my email, who would be not as busy as maybe the higher grade consultants. That's why I always recommend try to email young professionals, the YPs, or email consultant grade 1. Do not even go to grade 2s or the joint advisors. They will not see your email. And another recommendation is have an extension involved, like extension downloaded in your email. That extension should be your email tracker, so you will know when somebody has opened your email, right? Your cold email should be short, sweet, but also to the point. That this is what I can deliver, and this is how I can solve XYZ issue in your organization or in your vertical that you're currently facing. Because in recent reports and all of the reports that Niti Aayog is very active, so you see them on news every second day. So you know what issues they're facing or what issues they're highlighting. The other day I heard that they're tracking the Poshan tracker. There's an issue regarding the Poshan tracker in Madhya Pradesh or in some other state of India, right? So you go, you track that, you research on that, you say, this is how I think we will be able to collaborate, and this is how we will be able to solve an issue. Your writing sample matters, your policy memos matter the most. With the applicants, there's no favoritism. Neither is there like I would there's no favoritism. I would say that's the one thing. Connection building is needed. I would not even recommend LinkedIn for the connection building because I did try it myself. They do not reply on LinkedIn. Use the email. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, so strong connections and reaching out people, that's the real bar in this. Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
sure. Hmm. So I'm sure the audience also found that as helpful as I did. So yeah, thank you for putting that into perspective. That was really helpful for us.
So, Priya, when it comes to ministries, there's always this confusion that how do you even access those opportunities and how different is that experience compared to MPs or think tanks?
It's vastly different compared to working with MPs or think tanks. How do you approach the ministries? See, my way of approaching the ministries was very different. I would say, like in Hindi, this is what I call myself. Having research ka keeda. I love research. I'll do endless research if it comes to my career. If it comes to my subject, which is political science. I still remember falling in love with it in class 10th. And that's what led me to pursue an undergrad degree. But that's also the reason why I want to prove my parents wrong. That an arts degree is something that's not useless. You can get to several places through it, right? And this is why I say I have researched Akira. Because if I hadn't researched, I would have not gotten into undergrad program at DU for political science. Second, I would have never gone to ministries. Never would have even thought that internships happen in the ministries. First thing first, how do you get to know? Of course, LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. You get to know through LinkedIn everything, every single thing. If you do not have a LinkedIn account, you will not know anything. That's the first thing. Second thing, second major thing I would say is when you see an opportunity, even if it's something which is not related to your field, maybe it's about the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. I'm assuming people here mostly are from political science, that's why I'm saying this. Maybe it's about corporate affairs, maybe it's about Ministry of Agriculture, right? Policy is everywhere. Policy exists in every single sector, right? What you do is simply first go to their portal, and I know the portal works slow, but have patience. You should be having that amount of time. You go to the portal, you see if they have any internship openings. If not, again, see the directory of the consultants in the ministry, which is available online, and sometimes it would also contain their LinkedIn address. Go, check. They must have done posts. How did I get to know about my internship at Ministry of Panchayati Raj? Uh, a person's profile I was checking out. Randomly, I sent him a connection and I saw, okay, he's interned at MOPR. And I was like, oh, there's an internship at MOPR also. Let me research. Whole night I did not sleep, I researched. For 7 hours total, I researched. Because their portal is so hard to get to, like their website is different. It will take you to some other URL, some other address. And I researched, I filled in the form. I did not even cold email to anybody. I filled in the form and I went ahead. Here also I'll give you an example. When I got the offer from Ministry of Panchayati Raj, I was already interning at Niti Aayog. I got the call. It was a consultant who was asking me when I would be available for the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and I told her very politely that I'm sorry, ma'am, I've accepted my internship offer for another government organization. And she goes ahead and says, okay, but when can you join? Is there another time where we can join or we can have you on board? So your application needs to be that good. Your experience needs to be so top notch that they do not want to let you go. As much as people say na in private that BCG consulting and all of that, yeah, that's also public policy space. But if you want somebody in the government to tell you that just don't let go of this, don't let go of the organization, and we love your application, we would want you aboard. For that, you need to carefully fill out the form, carefully look at the format, and have a very convincing cover letter and resume. I politely told that consultant coming back to the call that, okay, ma'am, I would be available in January. I saved her number. Normally, people don't save the numbers, they would forget. I saved the number thinking that, okay, if I have this connection, maybe I can connect other people to the same. And that's how I mentored a lot of my juniors also into getting the internship at the ministry through connections. So even if you think that this person might not be useful for you in the meantime, they might be useful in the future. Always save your connections. The numbers, the emails, everything. Note it down. Make a document. Make a Google Doc maybe, which has all of the database, personal database of yours. Have all of it ready. For other ministries, I would again say research का कीड़ा होना चाहिए आप सब में. Should be having that. You go to Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Ministry of Agriculture, food processing industries. These are some of the ministries that I can name which have internships right now. But I don't know. Some other ministries might also be having. We have 53 ministries in our country. So you never know how many opportunities you might be losing out on just because you did not research on it. So, if possible, if Monday to Friday you're not free, keep the weekends for internship search. In your first year, I would say first sem में मजे कर लिए. Your second sem should be focusing on extreme research, extensive research, so that by the time you're in third sem, you're able to land one or two opportunities. And when you subsequently build your internships, at least by the time that you graduate, you should be having 7 or 8 internships. Because the market is very volatile, you should be having that much of experience. Highly competitive people come in, someone might take up your consultant position instead. How do you make yourself irreplaceable? That's what you should be focusing on.
Thank you so much, Pia. It was really insightful.
You're welcome.
Okay, okay, Priya. So, lastly, if we zoom out a bit, what does a career in public policy actually look like over time? Like beyond internships, how would someone think about building a long-term path in this field? Because that's the most important thing beyond internships.
Yeah. So a career in public policy should look like you going to do field work in any part of the country, being willing to do that. I would say public policy has two legs. Okay, first which is field work, second which is desk work or research work, where you work from maybe an election war room, you strategize, you consult, or stuff like that. I come in the second part. I do not prefer field work. I come in the second part. I analyze secondary data, while people bring to me the primary data from their field works. So a career in public policy in detail looks something like this. You have 7 to 8 internships with think tanks, with government ministries. You graduate, you extensively apply to other ministries because they do accept young professionals from the age of 21, 22 years of age. If you want to do fourth year, that's fine, optional. You want to write a research thesis, perfect. Do the masters. For masters, there are two tracks. I would say a master's in public policy if you want to pursue in India, try NLSIU. It has the best masters here in India. Try Indian School of Public Policy, Kautilya School of Public Policy, or BMS Munjal, BML Munjal School. That's the school. They recently launched their public policy program. Or if you have the money, go abroad because their public policy programs are much more diverse and much more, you could say, advanced for you guys. It could be a public policy, could be, it has different names, development studies, human development, conflict studies with a focus on peace building policies and stuff like that. So, first you do the masters. I mean, if you want after bachelor's, you can always apply for the YP positions and stuff in the ministries or in the companies. But that does not mean that your chances are increased for hiring. I would always recommend you go for a master's because when you see ministry openings, na, you would notice they require somebody with a master's in political science or with a master's in public policy or maybe a master's in economics, right? So if you come from political science, that means obviously you're not a part of the statistical part of public policy, right? So develop that with your masters because a masters in public policy helps you gain knowledge in statistics as well if you do not have prior knowledge in it. And then you go and apply to ministries. So here's how the career path looks like. You do internships, you graduate from college, you get a master's. Um, After the master's, and within masters, you should be having work experience. So again, internships. These should be long term, 6 to 7 months internships, which your masters should be permitting. In Indian curriculum, it does permit at times, depending on your institution. And after that, you apply for private consulting companies if you're a fan of private consulting companies and if you do not have any issues with the work life balance, or you would always go and work for the government. I would say primarily even for the consulting companies, they would require that you have an experience of at least 2 to 3 years of working with the government. So it shouldn't come as a surprise if you want to apply for ministries, you want to apply for parliaments, in the parliament and all. In the parliament, you have a lot of, you could say, options. First is you could become a policy associate in an MP's office. Policy associate looks at all of the policy developments that are happening from top to bottom every single day. Okay. Second, you could become a secretary to the MP, but for that you need to work with the ministries again. Right. Third, you could start with internship, which could turn into a permanent job opportunity if and when required, and if you've done great work. Because more often than not, MPs have a lot of shortages in their office. The lesser known MPs, I would say, those who are not in the spotlight, uh, a lot of like more often than not, you would find that they're lacking people in their office and would require more. If you care about experience, initially your salary will be low, and that's something that we should come to terms with the fact that a low salary but a higher experience in institutions like the parliament or with the ministries. I would say if you start even with the YP position you start, I think even then you would be getting a good salary enough to sustain yourself. Because I know in the end this all comes down to the money part of it. Right. So your career is in something should look like for the first 1 to 2 years of your career you're working. Then you become like 3 or 4 years more pass. You become a senior associate. Then you can also side by side work with the think tanks. Extra income, of course. And it's not that demanding. If you're working as a researcher and want to experience the intersection of academia and practical subjects in the public policy field. And then for when you would be having a decade old experience, I would say you'd almost be on par with an MBA professional when it comes to salaries, because that's the amount of like need which India wants. And for the people who are here who are first years, by the time you guys graduate, I think I'm assuming this is what my theory says, the public policy field in our country would develop a lot more. With the world being increasingly volatile, policy professionals are needed every single day and everywhere in each and every sector. Find your sector, choose it, and then go for it. Do the internship, and then go for your permanent jobs. Even for jobs, I would say I am somebody who's not applying it. I'm going for my masters. But if I were to say again, research ka keeda, you should be having that. Second, apply in bulk. I am repeatedly saying this. Apply in bulk, bulk, bulk. However, how many opportunities? At least you would know that even if you failed after giving your 100%. And I would say there's no failure in public policy. You could start whenever you want. That's the beauty of this field. I see people from science, I see people from commerce background coming in this field. I see 10, like people having 20 years of experience coming into public policy. So it is never too old to get into this field. Yeah.
Okay, so it's more about gaining experience over time and following the process. So it's less about landing into the first perfect role and more about building work over time.
Yeah,
So that
because
reiterates a lot.
this field is like initially you will think it's imperfect. Then you will say, okay, maybe I have to deal with A or B aspects of the field. And then you narrow down to your interest and then you apply for jobs. That's how it works.
Yeah, really appreciate that answer. That actually clarified a lot. Okay, so thank you so much, Pia. It has been a highly enlightening session for us as a first year finding path, and I hope our audience has a similar experience as well. See you in the podcast. Thank you, Pia.
Thank you so much for having me.